people perceived it really well.
See the duck? Yeah.
I can't really relate to chopping off my hair.
No! You have the distinguished look already. You're already there.
I really wanted to do this. It's just the time.
I go through the 1,200 photos we took and pick one.
Big guy behind my vocal things.
And I had like a very detailed schedule of which shots to work on each day, and then that's 7 days a week.
I tipped over that edge, and that was a really exciting moment for me.
I'm still laughing about that intro about Jurassic Park and elephants.
She still hasn't got any elephants, so it's a win-win so far.
All those little things that you forgot how to deal with.
But it was so much work to reach people.
You just like flow love, and it's really nice.
It is the 10-year anniversary. I can't even speak. Of Eclectic Arts.
Let's now back online.
Good morning, Sarah. I need to create a clinical profile for you, Sarah. Which is more powerful, love or hate?
I am actually an optimist, so I like to think love.
Make efforts to live a low-stress lifestyle and cultivate relationships.
Yeah. You want to throw in a boyfriend, too?
If you help me, I will take care of you. You're now under my control. Go to 47 West 13th Street. If the scientist doesn't comply, you must kill her. Well then, Sarah. I always get what I want. I have you under my control, don't I?
I've been doing what you asked me to do since day one.
You destroyed my life!
I haven't destroyed it yet, Sarah. There are things I could do. To your mother.
Oh, Commander, she died.
People like you build monsters.
Good morning, Sarah. How do you feel today?
Well, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. I'm Mark Sugiyama from Eclectic Arts, based here in Seattle, Washington. And thank you so much for joining me on this Thursday, the 7th of October, 2021. And a few quick housekeeping things. The next confirmed live stream that I have is going to be on Sunday, the 17th. So not this coming Sunday, the one after it at 4 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Cello and Gabby from Felicia are coming back. They have a brand new album that's dropping actually tomorrow, I believe. And so they're going to be coming back to talk with me. We did our first interview, I think it was late spring, I want to say. So it may have been that April, May timeframe. They're a wonderful duo from Brazil, and they have a brand new album that's original material. They're also known for doing a lot of cover songs as well that they do beautifully. So I'm really, really looking forward to catching up with them again. And again, so that's about a week and some change away. There are a couple other live streams that are also in the works, but until they're confirmed, I won't mention them yet. If you want to know what I have coming up, you can follow me as Eclectic Arts Media, one word, on Instagram. Boy, I am out of practice. That's where I post everything first, and then some of that information migrates over to other social media platforms. If this is your first time watching anything on my YouTube channel, if you could do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button, I greatly appreciate it. If you want to know what's coming up on my YouTube channel, you can also hit the notification bell, but please be aware that we'll send emails to your inbox. And if you're over on the Twitch side of things, if you could follow me over there, that would be wonderful. That's where I started off with the Alice tour last year, so I will always maintain a presence on Twitch. And yeah, I'm really glad to be here tonight. As most people that have been tuning in know that my schedule has drastically changed during the month of September, now into October. And so most of my live streams will either be in the evenings on weekdays or on the weekends. So I have a daytime muggle job that is going very well. I have some other changes that are going on in my life personally. So my time's kind of getting sucked up right now. But what's been really, really nice is that I'm still able to do these things virtually. I have attended my very first play back in person, which was last Friday, which was amazing to be back there. There's all kinds of different emotions that were coming over me being there, seeing a live play in front of me, and concert invitations have been coming and everything else. So just like I've been talking about for the last year and a half or so, I've been trying to find balance in my life, as I always am. And so just know that virtually this will, as far as I'm concerned, will never go away. It's just probably going to be a little bit more intermittent than it was in the past when I was doing 20 or 22 live stream interviews in a month on average. So if you're ready to go, so am I. And let's talk to my guest. My guest tonight is a multi-talented artist. She is the lead actor in the new sci-fi thriller Implanted. We just showed the trailer about a minute ago. Please welcome to the Eclectic Arts virtual studio, Michelle Girolami. Oh my gosh, I just butchered it. I'm so sorry. Girolami. Oh, she's gonna have to correct me when I bring it in. Oh goodness. I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's totally fine. It's a doozy. Girolami.
Girolami, that's right, because you say it's like all of me, like the song. Oh my God. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Tomorrow's Friday, right?
Oh yeah, it feels like Friday already. Yeah.
Oh gosh, I think that might help me a little bit. I don't know. This might be a really interesting interview. We'll see where it goes.
I'm here for it.
Awesome. Well, Michelle, you've got so many things that I want to talk about, but obviously I want to talk about Implanted first. We'll kind of get in through all the ins and outs of that, and we'll kind of explore a little bit more beyond it, depending on how we're looking on time. So, for those, and if you can try to keep it where we're as spoiler-free as possible for people that haven't seen it, what is Implanted about?
Implanted is about a woman named Sarah who is really down on her luck. She has lost her home. She has lost her job, and she's, really struggling. In addition to that, her mother is suffering from Alzheimer's, and she has a very close relationship with her mother, but at this point in time doesn't really know how to help her mom. And so she signs up for some medical testing to have a chip implanted that is supposed to be similar to like a Fitbit, monitoring her vitals, and then if any diseases happen to appear, then it can sense those and deal with it. She signs up for that, and that chip, things just go terribly awry. It is not a nice chip, that Lex.
Yeah, that's putting it mildly.
Yeah. Evil. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I think one thing that I had put in my review was that, to me, the character that you play, really, the film lives or dies by whoever they're going to cast in that role, because it's basically central to everything. It's the characters all throughout the film. Excuse me. And so your performance, to me, was the linchpin through this entire film. It's so good that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it just sucked me right into it. So, how did you get involved with the film? How far back do we go on this timeline?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So almost 3 years ago, I saw a breakdown for I don't even remember what was in the breakdown, except that it was about a person who was fighting against this chip in their head. And I'm sure it was much more detailed than that, but that's what I remember from, 3 years later. And I thought that sounds super weird. And anytime I see a breakdown, then I'm like, that seems different, I'm in. And so, yeah, I sent in my audition, and then shortly after, chatted with Fab, the director. And I think from our first conversation, we knew that we would work really well together. We got on just swimmingly from the very start. And then we met in person, and just immediately it was a collaboration. We knew that we would be working really well together. And we did. It was great.
Okay, well, isn't it nice when you can have that first dialogue with somebody and you just there's already a chemistry. You can already tell that you're thinking the same things, or you're kind of vibing off of what the other person's saying. So, oh yeah, we could do this and this, and it just sounds so good. And then you get a chance to meet them in person. It's like, yeah, this is basically a done deal. I know we're going to be collaborating on a project together
Yeah.
And then you actually made it happen, and you actually were. I've had the pleasure of interviewing so many different directors and producers and actors and screenwriters, and like I was talking to you pre-show during the pandemic period of time. What was the timeline like for the actual principal photography for this film for you?
I think the principal photography was it was somewhere between 10 and 14 days for principal photography. And then after that was all finished, there ended up being some rewrites, and then we did reshoots about probably with Paris and scenes in Nevada. That probably ended up being about 10 to 14 days as well of reshoots.
Wow. See, I've said this before on my streams when I've interviewed folks in the film industry. I'm always amazed, in some cases, how quickly. In this case, like what you didn't say we were shooting for this year and then 2 years and this year. It's like we did it in the principal part, and then we came back for reshoots and we did that. And granted, it could be a long process overall to get the film out, but just the actual parts of it, sometimes it's not that long, folks.
Yeah, well, and especially in independent filmmaking, because every day is money. You have so many more constraints in an independent film, and it's just, you have to get those shots. And so you end up, working really long days and doing as much as you can. And to Fab's credit, he's really phenomenal at grabbing as much footage as possible, like really great footage. So I think that was one of the reasons we were able to do that, was Fab, for sure.
Okay, that sounds great. And I'm also wondering about for your character of Sarah. What kind of preparation did you do? Did you have enough time to like really kind of figure out how you wanted to approach the character and collaborating with Fab, or was it kind of like all hands on deck and just go?
Yeah, I did have I don't remember exactly how much time I had, but I did have enough time that I felt very prepared. She goes through so many different things physically and mentally, that I really wanted to be specific about each different aspect of what she's going through. And I felt like I had enough time to go through this script thoroughly and look at all of the beats and ask all of the questions I had. I felt like for me, it felt like there was enough time to prepare. And I feel like it was maybe around, I think we maybe had like 2 weeks prior to shooting, maybe 3 weeks, that I had the script and was able to go through it. And then we had a meeting before to talk about everything. And I felt like I had enough time to prepare. And then on set, it was very much go, 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 just because you have to get the footage, you just have to get those shots.
Yeah, again, for me, I've definitely been getting quite the education from the film community about just how these things come together. And in some cases you get thrown a curveball where maybe financing pulls out, so a location disappears from you. So then you got to think, okay, well, we can't go over here, so now what are we going to do with this? And we have X amount of days, and someone's schedule is going to be, you've only got me for 2 days, and I go to my next project or whatever. It's like all these logistics and all these other variables that happen. And so it's like, I'm always amazed that any film gets made at any time.
Oh yeah. Oh, I know. I say that all the time too. I'm like, it's magic. Like it's unbelievable that independent films continue to be made. It takes so much perseverance. It takes so much dedication. It takes a lot of hard work and a lot of time. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, that's a great word. Amazing is that very much a perfect word for independent filmmaking. And it doesn't matter if you're making a short, making a feature, making a documentary, making anything. It's so much work goes into it. So many things of unexpected surprises and having to figure out how to problem solve on the fly. I know some of the directors that I've talked to said that the films that they started weren't the films that they finished. In terms of
I think that's every film.
Yeah, the one gentleman had it took him 6 years to get the film completely out, and they had shot footage in a foreign country that didn't really jive with the other parts of the story, so they had to rethink everything. And then the actress was aging and looking different, so they're kind of like, what do we do with this? And for me as an audience member and a reviewer, I would have no clue watching. So I could have watched Implanted, and if you told me that, I wouldn't have known that, just because I'm just watching this film for 90 minutes, 100 minutes type of thing. But the people involved with, they know what's going on, and they know the scene or how many times we shot it, or what's that funny thing that happened. So for yourself, working on Implanted, when you think back about it, were there certain scenes that were like really stand out in terms of really difficult for any reason for you personally?
I'm laughing because and I know Fab is watching and he knows which scene I'm thinking of. When we were in Nevada, I had food poisoning, and it was also like over 100 degrees, and all of those scenes are just me running. And so it was just like, okay, get a little Gatorade, have some water, run, get sick, take a break, run, get sick, take a break. So that was, I think that's the first time I've had food poisoning and been filming. But again, it's like, I wanted to get the coverage, and, they kept asking, are you okay to shoot? Are you okay to continue? And it was like, well, we have to get this. Yeah, we got, so that was, that was the hardest. It was interesting because Sarah just was ill prepared for most weather situations. She was always just, principal photography, it was very, very cold. It was in December when we were shooting that. And that year there were a couple of really cold days, and Sarah just was not wearing proper attire for that. And then for the reshoots, those all took place in the summer. And so she was just way overdressed for all of that. And then in Nevada, we were in Death Valley, and I don't know how high the temperature was, but it was above 100 degrees and just so hot. So I think about the physical difficulties as tied to the weather.
See, these are the things that I love hearing about. And maybe you didn't. Clearly, you probably didn't enjoy having food poisoning when you're trying.
No, that wasn't fun.
Running in Nevada heat. But that shows what kind of a trooper and dedicated person, a professional you are, to get in there and get those scenes done, and then go crash and burn at a hotel or wherever you had to once you're done for the day. Yeah. But good grief. I'm flashbacking to another actress that I had on talking about the same thing, that the entire shoot was like super cold for like a month and a half, and her character of course is wearing like jeans and like a wife beater or whatever.
That's worse than what I had.
Yeah, she was like, can't you give the character like some sort of coat, even a hoodie, just something?
Yeah. Oh no.
And again, for me watching it, I can't really tell because you didn't see like breath necessarily coming out of the mouth. I didn't really know it was that cold, but apparently it was fairly miserable.
Oh man.
And also, and you kind of mentioned a little bit of this. So when you were filming principal photography and then you came back and did reshoots, what year was this roughly?
So let's see. I believe principal photography started at the end of 2018. And then reshoots for the summer of 2019, and then ended. I think we went to Paris in October 2019. Yeah.
See, there's another thing for me that's always interesting, just hearing the timeline, because you're thinking, when you're describing these things, I'm thinking, well, it probably wasn't last year because of the pandemic, but maybe it was all in 2019. It's like, well, no, it's further back than that.
Yeah, it's interesting with with a lot of films I've worked on, short or features, it's it takes just a long time. And because a lot of the projects I've worked on have been independent projects, it comes down to, I guess it's the same in bigger projects where it comes down to scheduling, but also, financing, and that's always a huge issue with scheduling anything, I think, is the financing.
Yeah, from what I've been told, every film-related professional that's come on has always said the number one stumbling block for them has been finances.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't matter what kind of project they're doing, it's like trying to secure those
Yeah.
finances and hoping that they actually follow through with everything and don't pull out.
Yeah. Right.
Yep. So, and then once you get your actual project done and it's all in post and everything else is like, all buttoned up, then it's hoping that you find distribution for it.
Yeah.
So all these pieces that have to happen for it to actually get out in front of an audience.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, for folks, when you're watching in like any movie, especially independent films, now you kind of get an idea of this whole back behind the scenes thing about like what has to happen for these things to actually show up either on your TV or in the theater or wherever you end up watching it on, whatever platform you're on. That it's almost a bit of a miracle that it actually happens. Oh man, because I can't think of anything. I mean, like with music and some of the other arts that I cover. I mean, there's some similarities, but it seems like movies have their own kind of unique flavor in terms of it really takes a lot of pieces to fall into the right place. Versus some of the other ones, maybe there's 4 pieces. Movies might have 12 pieces or 16 pieces to have to make it work.
Yeah, and each step of the way as well. It's just it's nutty. Like pre-production, then producing it, and then post-production. There's so many obstacles at each step of the way.
Yeah, and when was the first time you got a chance to see the finished product?
Oh my goodness. Well, I saw like final with everything in it was I think last week with everything. I had seen versions without some of the special effects, and I'd seen some versions without the final music. So I had an idea. It's and I've seen a lot of just, scenes on their own. Yeah, so I've seen a lot of different pieces and iterations of it, but I didn't see like final project until it was released. Yeah, but it's so interesting because having seen images from it and scenes and pieces of it, and having lived with it for so long, it's so exciting to have it available to people now. It's great that people can stream it now. It's so exciting.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Again, like you've seen so many different pieces of it, and you're a part of it, and it was what 3-4 years ago almost in terms of the whole thing, the process starting, and then that's finally in front of
crazy.
people. Yeah. And that's kind of that whole other piece that obviously as a creative person you want to get all of your things together and get your project, whatever that project is, done, and then the other piece of it is who's going to look at it, who's going to watch it, who's going to hear it, who's all these things.
Yeah.
So when you did see it last week for the first time, the final project, what kind of thoughts went through your head when you were watching it, when you were done?
I'm so proud to be a part of it. I was just so proud of every single person who was involved with it. Absolutely every crew member, every cast member, everybody who worked on post-production, everybody who contributed and supported in whatever way they could or did. I was just really proud to be in the company of all of those people. So yeah, I feel a great deal of pride about it.
Well, that's wonderful, and you should, because it was something that obviously I wanted to talk to you, and perhaps I might even if I was watching this, maybe I'm scheduling something with him to talk to.
Oh, you should,
about directing this, because I love learning new things about something that I really, especially again with films, I know next to nothing other than just being a fan and watching things. So it's been an education for me talking to people like yourself about what goes into the process, and how much more, to me, entertaining they can be, because I just know how much in the back of my head, and when I'm watching something now, I'm like, oh man, I bet you that scene took a long time to figure out, or and some of this other stuff, or how many takes did they do of that, or that's all the kind of things I never thought of until I started reviewing these things 1.5 years ago. So and so I'm kind of curious, if we have a little bit of time, I'd love to hear more about your own personal background. So how did you get into acting in the first place? How far back do we go?
If you ask my mom, apparently when I was first even just starting to babble and couldn't even form sentences or real words yet, I would orate on tops of chairs and give, I don't know, speeches that were nonsense, which I probably still do. And then, yeah, from a young age, I was always kind of pushing my friends into putting on little pretend plays with me, like in front of either nobody or maybe our parents. um, and then my parents have always been super supportive. Like and my brothers, like my family is extremely supportive. And so any chance they could helped me by getting me into like acting camps or musical camps. And then I was just auditioning in my community theater in Montana, and then continued to really enjoy it. And then I loved music and acting. And so when I decided to go to college, I was trying to decide between the two. I do love musical theater, but I didn't really want to pursue that. I wanted to either do classical vocal performance or acting. And so I decided to go to school for music, and then ended up taking acting classes outside of university. Yeah. And here we are.
Okay, so when you were studying music, what did you get a BFA? What kind of music degree did you get then?
I actually got a BS because I studied music education at NYU. Mm-hmm.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
So, and we're definitely going to talk about music in a second, but staying with the acting path, were you doing plays first then? Were you doing, TV commercials, anything you can kind of get your hands on when you're first starting on the acting side of things?
Oh yeah, everything. Student films, commercials, what else was I doing? Absolutely anything. I radio plays, radio musicals, like what else did I do? Anything that I could play with.
Okay, so with Implanted, was this your first leading opportunity, or have you done lead work prior to this?
This was my first lead in a feature. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd done several shorts, and been the lead in those, and then supporting roles in features. Yeah, so it was the first, first lead in a feature.
Okay,
Yeah.
so knowing that, did you feel any pressure then?
I think the only pressure I felt was to make sure that I was helping to create a positive environment for the crew. I mean, the crew, it was a small crew. We became very close. And so I just wanted to make sure, as best I could, that I helped make it a positive environment. And then for the cast members who were coming in as day players, I also, wanted to create a warm environment for them. And that, I think that was the only real pressure I felt, was to, even in moments of exhaustion and grouchiness, to be there in a positive way for the cast and crew. Didn't always succeed, but
well, as long as the intention's there.
Yeah.
Well, and it makes a huge difference too, because the fact that you were thinking that way says one thing about you as a person and how you wanted to kind of try to help with the set. Because I'm thinking about my Muggle job right now, is that I didn't really know what it was going to be like. It's a government agency that I'm working with. And so they've been basically welcoming me with open arms. It makes all the difference in the world. Yeah. So it's similar to what you're talking about. Everyone there really seems to care about what they're doing, and they don't put somebody like, well, I'm up here and you're down there because of there's none of that kind of stuff. There's like everyone says hi to everybody. There's some sort of acknowledgement, and it sounds like the same type of thing you try to do on the set with everyone that you came across.
Yeah.
Very, very important.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, everybody's working hard and we all want it to be good, so we should always try to be kind to each other.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. You all have a common goal. You're trying to make the best
Mhm.
film you possibly can. So, and everyone's
Yeah.
got a job on it. So, when someone needs help with that particular job, or if they're just struggling that day, then yeah, you want to be positive. You want to be negative.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and we've all probably worked jobs at some point where you had some negative Nellies around you. It's like you see what
Oh, of course.
happens.
Right. Yeah.
I know I've worked my share of those things. Like, oh my gosh,
Sure.
I don't want to be around you anymore. I want to be
Right.
somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so when you mentioned, with getting your degree in music education, and you've been doing a lot of music. I haven't had I'll be fully transparent. I've not had a chance to listen. I know I've looked at your YouTube channel and you have some videos and some other things on there. I think I subscribe to it too.
Oh, thanks.
So are you kind of doing acting, when the opportunities are there, and same thing with music, or is music kind of like, do you hold that differently to you? How does that work for you as an artist?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think I'm endlessly curious, and so I'm always wanting to know more about everything, but in particular things I'm passionate about. So music is something I am thinking about and playing around with every single day. I teach singing lessons as well. So it's something that is part of my daily life. And then also with acting, I'm always consuming and learning in that world as well. So yeah, so I guess they're similar in that. And yeah, I find myself kind of spending time doing both. I guess one doesn't have a greater pull than the other. I think I happen to have a few more projects acting wise that have been I guess taking a little more time, but I'm still feeding that musical interest and love. Yeah.
That's wonderful to hear. Especially when you said that you're endlessly curious about things that you're passionate about, because I completely relate to that because that's how I've done however many live streams I've done so far.
Yeah.
Because I want to learn more. I want to absorb it.
Yeah.
I love being around creative people, and even if it's someone who I just happen to love their product and I don't really know much about the person, I want to kind of see, yeah, so what happened to create what I saw or what I heard. And I always pick up something. There's always, I never leave a live stream going, well, I didn't learn anything from that. No, I'd always learn something from somebody. And you would notice that being a teacher, and I have a teaching background myself, that you learn all kinds of things from your students. Totally.
Oh, yeah.
And it's very much a two-way street. So for me, again, with my guests, yeah, it's always fascinating that I pick up these little pieces, and sometimes there's commonalities and threads. So I'm like, okay, 10 people said the same thing, so it must mean when financing is difficult for your project, financing is probably difficult for your project. But then sometimes someone will say something different that it just kind of stays with me. I'll kind of think about it later, and it might even come up again in another issue. Oh, no, I just did this live stream 2 weeks ago with a wonderful actress from New York, and she mentioned this. And then it'll just kind of connect people, and it just becomes this whole wonderful artistic circle, really.
Yeah.
Is there any? I'm just kind of randomly curious. Is there any artistic area that you wish you'd like to learn more about outside of acting or singing, like a painting or design or something?
So part of one of my pandemic projects was, I love stop motion animation, and I just think it's magic. I think it is amazing. And so during the pandemic, I was like, well, I have all these songs that I've written and I don't know what to do with them. So I started making music videos with songs that I've written. And at first I was just playing around with like these weird little cutouts that I created. And then I decided that I wanted to make it into a stop motion animation project. So I started playing around with that. And I love it. I would love to learn more about that and continue to play around with it.
Wow. So that sounds like since you're so into stop motion animation, that somewhere down the road, we probably will see something from you that you've directed and put together that's stop motion animation, I would think.
Well, so far I have 2 or 3 music videos on my YouTube channel that are stop motion animation that I created. But I'd love to. I have a short film that I actually started working on 6 years ago and just have not yet finished post-production on it. But I might add a little stop motion animation into it because why not?
That's awesome, because I think one thing that creative people found during the pandemic is that they found themselves maybe with a little extra time. So something they've wanted to do and just didn't have the time to do. It's like, well, I have the time now, so I can start learning how to play that ukulele, or I can start doing stop motion animation, or I want to learn pottery. It's like, okay, and creative people tend to find ways. I don't think they're ever really bored because they always find something they've always wanted to work on. Or, like in my case, opportunities present themselves, and then you end up on this path that you had no idea you were ever going to end up on it. But it's so amazing when it happens. So that's awesome. That I didn't work with stop motion animation, but this was many years ago, back when I had hair. I worked as an audio engineer at a computer company that did some of the early like cartoons for the web kind of stuff. So this is like 20 years ago.
Oh, cool.
So I was around animators and programmers, and I was a department of one. So every project had to come across my desk, and it needed sound loops, effects, voiceovers. So we had professional actors come in and do voiceover stuff for us. And if we had some sort of mistake or something, and there's a deadline, sometimes our own staff did it. If there's some small part that I need someone to mimic a baby voice, and we had one guy that was really good at it. So Gene, get in here and cut this line for us. And it was endlessly fast. And every Wednesday they would have live drawing sessions after work, so the animators would stick around if they wanted to. Yeah, so I remember the first day when the model came in and those guys were all getting in a circle. I was like, "What are you guys all doing here?" And they're like, "Oh, we've got a drawing thing here." And anyone was actually welcome to do it. It didn't have to be just the animator. But
that's really cool.
I can't draw myself out of a paper bag, but it was just interesting that they had that kind of thing. So there's yet another area. I have not really talked to too many people that have a background in animation in recent years to kind of know what they're doing. I've had one gal that's done a really wonderful short film that was in 2D animation. And a couple
cool.
Some people that have done some 3D stuff. But that's awesome that you've already done. So now I need to look at your YouTube channel, then look at some of these music videos, and check out the stop motion animation that you've done, and then see what else comes up down the road. That also kind of begs the question: are you someone that sounds like, since you've had this short film in post-production for, overall, I think you mentioned 6 years. So are you someone that, do you see yourself writing your own feature or directing a feature or any of that kind of thing down the road?
Yeah, I have a almost complete screenplay of a feature that I've written. And I have done like some script doctoring for other people, and some editing for other people and writing for other people. And then I also have a collaborator who I write with, and we've written 10 episodes of a comedic series. And so we have that as well. And we're figuring out, I think our next step, we're going to work on filming a sizzle reel for it, for the pilot episode. And and that I'm definitely, we've spoken about it, and I will definitely be directing some of those episodes, which I'm excited about. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. You've got a lot of things in motion. There's a lot of stuff going on.
That's true.
Oh, no, I love it. I love the fact that you're expressing your artistic creativity through so many different areas. And like you said, one's not any more important than the other. They're all just kind of extensions of you.
Yeah. It's and you always learn, or like you were saying, you always learn something from either meeting other people or doing other things. And so I think, it sounds weird, but like I do learn some other things about acting and directing from making these stop motion animation videos, or from in like going through a song I'm working on and thinking about the interpretation of it. There are always things, or when I'm working on a monologue, that helps me to be, I think, a better singer in expressing whatever I'm singing about. And yeah, it all lends itself to the other.
See, what you said just kind of reminded me of the fun table session I had most recently with the musician from Chile, and then we had an actress from Canada, and the musician in Chile was saying that she was admiring the actress in Canada, and also we had a documentary filmmaker in New York, saying that she would like to be able to play a character in a music video, but she doesn't know how she would do that. And that's when the actress was saying, well, you're already connecting through music, through an emotion with the audience. So they're actually not too different. And so they start talking about this whole process. And then, of course, the actress up in Canada was saying, I can't sing. So they're like, well, we should do a Zoom together and start, coaching each other basically about
that's great.
Our respective things that, we're trying to get better at or learn about. And, but so when you're talking about working on a monologue and how that affects your music, that's what started clicking in my head of what they were talking about.
That's so cool. Yeah.
That one definitely feeds the other. Wow. And just again, just so that I kind of know a little bit more, and people watching this too, how would you describe your music? And that's probably really a loaded question, but if you had to.
It's weird retro pop.
Okay.
It's like, yeah.
So when I go onto YouTube later tonight, are the things that I will find, are those things that are you doing all the instrumentation? Are you collaborating with other people on some of those? Or just kind of depends on what I'm listening to?
I'm super fortunate because my husband is a fantastic musician. He's a drummer. And he's been, over the pandemic, he wanted to learn more about mixing. And so he mixed all of my songs. So I wrote the music, and I sang and then played piano on all of the pieces. And then he played any other instrument you hear and mixed it. And then our friend, who's professionally a mixer, Will Hensley, he also helped mix some of the songs. And then we had on one of the tracks, our friend Jay Foote, who's a great bassist, played on one of them as well. So it was collaborating with between 1 and 4 people so far.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, no, I'll definitely check out the music videos and the music things that you have on your YouTube channel so far.
Thank you.
Yeah, and to kind of wrapping this up, you've kind of already mentioned you've got a lot of things in the hopper right now that you're working on. So instead of asking you about what you have coming up, what kind of advice would you give a new actor and or a new musician?
Oh, I think the biggest thing is, I'm going to steal a quote. I don't even know who this quote is from, but someone said, you only need one person to believe in you to take your career to the next level. And for me, I've always felt like I believe in myself. So that's the one person already. So you already have that if you believe in yourself. You can only find more people to believe in you who will help further your career or your dreams or whatever you want to do. So I think believing in yourself is huge. And everybody says like, oh, don't worry what anybody else says. But truly, don't. Because if you start worrying about what other people think, then you start changing who you are. And who you are is special. And who you are is what's going to make you stand out from other people. That's my advice.
That's wonderful. I've never actually heard that about it takes one person and to believe in you, and that starts actually with you.
I wish I knew who that was. I wish I knew who that quote was from. I'll find it. Look into it. We'll fact check that.
It's a wonderful quote, because I was telling my local friend here who's been making a couple short films herself that I can't remember what she said to me, but I wasn't trying to be a jerk, but I was just like, if you don't believe in it, why would anybody else?
It's so true. Yeah.
And I understand if you're going to doubt yourself at times and you get frustrated, all that happens. That's par for the course. But at the end of the day, do you believe in this film you're trying to make? Do you believe in this?
Right.
Yeah, I do. It's okay. Well, then you need to kind of exude that to other people, because again, if you're just kind of like, well, I don't know if this is any good. Well, I don't want to get on board with that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So she just kind of had to kind of remind herself. I think she was kind of having a rough day, and I probably made it rough for her. But
oh no,
I was trying to do it from a tough love kind of point of view,
no.
and we're still friends, so I think it's okay.
Oh, so it's okay.
I'll be seeing her in person in about a week, so I'll find out if it's okay.
It's okay.
But it's what you said is very true, though, because whatever you're believing in, you can't change it to please other people, because like you said, then you're starting to follow something that isn't you. And then if you're not happy with what the end result is, then you have absolutely nothing left, because it wasn't even something that you wanted to do. I remember a couple band members way back in the 80s that talked about the same thing when record companies, the other outside influencers were trying to change their sound. It's like, well, if we change it to this and it doesn't sell, then they're not happy, we're not happy, we got absolutely nothing left. So basically, screw them. We're going to do what we're happy about and see where the chips fall. And kind of the same mentality.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think if you stay true to yourself, you find your people. And I think the other thing is, like, if the opportunities don't present themselves, then you can create opportunities for yourself, and then you can continue to do what you want to do.
Very well said. Again, people that have watched this and probably have heard me say this more times than they care, that, let me get this back in my ear, that Eclectic Arts started off as not even an idea. It was just an email exchange with a band, and I kept thinking, well, maybe people would like to maybe read this if they're fans of it, and then it just kind of went from there. So I just created something that it was really just for me, just kind of for fun initially, and then it went all kinds of different ways that I never ever could have expected. But so you're right. And also, like in this day and age too, there's so many ways to create opportunities for yourself because of the platforms that are available to you.
Oh yeah.
And if you want to record a song, you can have something sound really good that you recorded on your laptop in your apartment. Versus in the 80s, where you basically had to go to a studio and you had to spend time and all that kind of. I'm totally dating myself, but that's
it's true though.
And you can get yourself out there and you can be heard. And look at what's happened, like when people put something up on YouTube and someone finds it and they want you to come audition for their band, and you're like, are you serious? You want me to sing for your band? It's like, yeah, because that's how they found you. It's wonderful in that respect. And social media can be not so wonderful in other respects.
Yep. That's true.
I take it for what it is and try not to get too sucked up into it, but sometimes it's hard. I purposely will try to leave it for chunks of time, and then I realize, wait a minute, I need to let people know that I have a live stream, so I can't be gone.
Same. I have a really weird relationship with social media. Maybe it's healthy. I don't know. I will go on if I'm trying to promote something like Implanted, and I'm proud of something that I want people to see, like Implanted, and post about that, and then I'll like maybe one or two, two or three things that I see on other people's pages or posts, and then I say farewell, and then I just don't look at it, and then I'll check in to if people are replying to things and I get notifications, then I'll say thank you or respond, and then if I don't have something that I would like to share, then I just stay off.
That sounds like you found a really good method that works for you, because sometimes
I don't know if it does. I don't know if that's it's just what I do.
I just know myself that sometimes, like, if I'm trying to pass some time, depending on what I'm doing, like if I'm sitting in my car stuck somewhere, then my phone, and I don't mean like driving people, I mean like stuck, like waiting for a ferry or something, then my phone comes down. It's like, well, I'm just kind of passing the time, seeing what's going on through here.
For sure.
But then there's other times, like especially when I was on the Alice tour, it's like, I have to promote who's coming up. I got another person tonight, I got another person tomorrow, and then it all starts overlapping, so people don't know what's going on with anything.
Right.
And then I'm trying to follow people's things that are tagging the band, and I'm like,
Oh, I know. Yeah.
this is it's giving me a headache. Let alone any of the comments and DMs and all the
Oh
other kind of
gosh. Yeah.
things that can come through, good and not so good.
Yeah.
And I've talked about this as well on my live streams with particularly comments on YouTube, which are always interesting to me.
Oh, I don't read comments or it's funny. I don't read comments or reviews. I read your review because the publicist was like, "Oh, he'd like to interview you." So I was like, "Oh, I better read it," in case you're like, "You were terrible. Expound on that." So I was really happy you didn't say that. So thank you very much for a kind review and for watching the movie. Like, thank you very much for that. But yeah, I never read reviews or comments, YouTube comments. It's like, oh gosh.
It's an ugly rabbit hole. You're smart to not do it. And for me, for the most part, YouTube will actually filter certain things out. They think it's spam or something like that. It'll actually hold those comments.
I didn't know that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a setting for that. So that's what I have mine set to. And again, I've mentioned this to some people that I didn't realize that I can go through and actually review those. I just didn't ever think. I don't take the time to do that stuff. There's like a folder for it. So one day, this is back in like late fall last year, I said, "Oh, what's this?" And it's comments held for review. And so I looked at it, and that's when all this stuff opened up. And some of it was spam, it was junk, but some of it wasn't. It was just negative comments about certain interviews I had done. And I was like, you actually spent this amount of time on some long ass post that you did,
right?
When you could have just been doing something so much more productive,
right? Yeah.
So part of me just made me laugh about it, and part of me just like, what a waste of time.
Yeah, get a hobby besides trolling people.
Yeah, and I won't go into details about most of it, but for the most part, I just ignore that stuff. I just kind of keep going.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize that there's no. Having said that, I haven't looked at that folder in a long time.
I think that's fine. I think
I'll just leave that folder there until it eventually deletes that stuff on its own or whatever it does.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Yeah, there's enough negativity in the world. I don't need to read more of it. So
no, it doesn't serve anybody.
And like you had said too, like I've really been trying to remind myself during the pandemic time and pushing forward into this time now of really reminding myself who's been really good to me, who do I like working with, who's someone really positive. Yeah. So like the folks in Alice, I just got a text from Gordon the other day, the bass player, was trying to turn me on to this band he's been working with, and it's kind of like I got to remind myself not to keep. You want to find new people, of course, some of the time in terms of from my end of things to interview, but I don't want to be doing just this searching, trying to find who these other people.
Yeah.
When there's great people right here that maybe they have a brand new film coming out or they have a new CD coming out or whatever. Don't forget you want to bring them back, and because they're really great people. And sometimes pre-pandemic, I would get lost in the search. And it's like, well, there's this band coming and this thing happening, and I want to get all these things. I was like, well, wait a minute, don't forget, have a healthy mix of both.
Yeah.
Mark. Yeah. And I'm trying to adhere to that because it really seems to make much more of a difference in my personal life of how I view doing all of this work. Because after a while, it becomes a bit much. And if you're like, not feeling good about maybe the people that you're interviewing or the people that you're taking the time to work with, publicists and all that kind of thing, then you just get burnt out on it. It's like, well, why am I doing this? But when you work with good people and you find new good people, it's like, okay, this is why. You mentioned something too about when you kind of find your people, find an audience. They're absolutely out there. Again, I keep going back to the Alice tour that I found my tribe of their fans.
Yeah.
And they're open-minded people, kind-hearted people, really generous people. And the more I was doing those shows on their tour, the more I just found more and more. And they would turn me on to bands. Hey, Mark, have you heard this band? I had no clue who this band was. I love them. And so I'm still friends with a lot of those fans because of that tour. And that's only because that band gave me an opportunity. So that tribe thing that you had mentioned, it's extremely valuable and so important to not lose sight of it.
Yeah.
Well, Michelle, it was wonderful talking with you for 50 minutes or so.
No, it's great.
And everybody, Implanted is available now. Is it on all the standard digital platforms, basically, or
I believe
ones?
so. Yeah, it should be on most streamers, on Amazon, Google Play, YouTube, Vimeo, iTunes. Yeah, and we're actually having a screening in New York on October 17th at 3 p.m. At the Producers Club. And we'll have other screenings. Keep your eye out for other screenings to happen.
Awesome. That's really great. That's going to be a lot of fun to screen it with an audience.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Cool. Well, again, it was a pleasure talking with you. And
thank you.
Thank you. I would love to reconnect with you if you have another project, which sounds like you have several when they're ready to come out, or potentially maybe for a fun table session down the road.
Oh, for sure.
You can meet some other creative folks, and we can kind of have some fun and some levity, and
great.
See where those things go. But I will let you go because it's almost 11 o'clock over there on the East Coast. And
I stay up late, but thank you.
But everybody, Implanted, Michelle is the lead actor, and again, thank you so much, and stay safe, and hopefully I can talk to you sooner than later.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Alrighty, have a good night. Bye-bye.
Good night. Bye.